Hello, guys. So, my name is Sam, and I have a crazy idea that I started with my amazing friend. And as you can see, Krystal. And so, she'll
Hey.
be introducing herself as well. And this is our first podcast. We have absolutely no idea what we're doing. So, please just bear with us as we work through these little bumps and navigations that we're going to be trialing here. So let me start by telling you what our name is. So welcome to the Bandage Banter, which is our podcast name. And I guess our little slogan is going to be injecting positivity. Who's filing the incident report? And as I
Not
would
me.
say,
Not me.
I was going to say nose goes. So we just decided to branch out on this crazy adventure. I'm going to let Krystal take over a little bit and introduce herself, and then I'll come back and introduce me, and then we're going to start with our lovely bandage banter.
So I'm Krystal. I'm a nurse, and yeah, who wants to do this anymore? Not me. But what I do, what I can do is talk about it. That's what we're here for. And I'm a nurse for it feels like 100 years, but I think it's like 13. I've been med surg, tele, PCU. Oh, who cares? Who cares? Let's just get to the nitty gritty. I'm in the stock room. Let's talk about it. And Sam, who are you?
Okay, so I'm also a nurse. I would throw all the freaking letters out at you from A to Z that comes after my degree, but I won't bore you with that. I'll send that later in an email with the nastiness that you'll get from the nastygram of not doing all of the aspects of your job with lack of resources.
Don't you love
Um,
those? By the way, Sam, here's from HR. You didn't clock in on Tuesday. You forgot your lunch break. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Back to who you are. I'm sorry.
no, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So, I've been a nurse for a total of 5 years, three of those for which I've been travel nursing. And just to kind of give you a background, me and Krystal crossed paths on a travel assignment in Tucson, Arizona. She was
What year
working
was
day
that? Like
shift. That was
2022?
2021. No.
No way. 2022.
2022, the end of
Yeah.
2022
Yeah.
into the beginning of 2023. And people don't realize how small travel nursing is because I literally left Tucson, Arizona. And I don't know why some people stick out with me. I had met Krystal like randomly one time on a night shift because we worked at a big level 1 trauma hospital here in Tucson, Arizona. And we didn't work on a shift directly together because she started off at nights and then transitioned to days. And I just remember getting a report from her like once or twice. But I left from Tucson, Arizona, went home for a little bit, which my home is in Georgia. And then I went to a little ass hospital in freaking Idaho, okay? And I'm
Kootenai.
sitting, Kootenai.
Kootenai
And then
Hospital.
I,
I called it Kootenai for like 3 weeks and nobody corrected me. That's how nice they are up there.
they are freaking the sweetest people in the middle of nowhere that
Yeah.
you are like, where and when did this place exist and why did nobody tell me about it? So I literally am walking into orientation and it's my first night on the floor. I'm going to be orienting with someone on the unit and everybody's like the charge nurse is writing down who's present for the meeting or your team talks or team huddles. And this poor charge nurse never remembered who anybody was, but they were making their marks and they were like, is Krystal here? Is Krystal here? And I don't know why, but all of a sudden, Krystal rolls in. She's rolling in a
With
little
my
late,
coffee in my hand.
looking a whole ass hot mess. And nobody had to tell me because there was a couple other people missing too. No shade, no shade. And I literally knew the moment that you walked in. I was like, "That's Krystal." So I waited till everybody started getting up from team talks because it was over, and I was like, "Hey, Krystal!" And I just remember Krystal looking at me like, "Who the fuck is this bitch?" And I
I'm
was
not
like,
gonna lie, I didn't remember you. And you were
"No,
like,
it's
hey,
okay."
and you named the hospital we worked at. You named the unit that I worked on. I was like, I don't
Yep.
know, but not for nothing. I then it turns out that we actually did laundry in the same laundry room at the same campsite, and you didn't remember me either, bitch. So I
No,
mean,
no, I was guilty. I was guilty.
it
So
just goes to
we
show you, like when you're traveling, faces like sometimes you'll be in an area and you're like, where am I? Like, what state am I in? When you
what is
travel so
going
much.
on? Especially after a shift. So if you were giving me a report, that was the tail end of your shift. If you think about
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean? And maybe when you called me to go do the laundry, I may have went to go throw laundry in, and like you're just like out of mind, out of sight kind of thing. So I just think it's crazy how we literally cross paths and like intertwine multiple times. And like you were talking
Right.
about, me and Krystal both, we're travel nurses and we both travel in our RVs. So we have
Yes.
a lot in common, and it's just so interesting how we cross paths. We really hit it off. I love her so freaking
Love
much.
you. Love you.
So we have kind of met this awkward, and Crystal's been doing this a lot longer than me. I've only been at this five
No.
years. And how long have you been doing this, Crystal? I know you said you feel like
I
100
think
years.
I so 2011 is when I became a, like January 2011 is when I became a nurse. So 13, I guess,
Okay.
13 years.
Yeah, so she's definitely earned her badge as an RN and is ready to pretty much should be ready to retire because I know I'm not going to be a bedside nurse for 13 years. There's just no freaking way. I've
No.
dilly dabbled in a couple of different areas. I kind of started out in ER, then dilly dabbled in ICU, and realized those are higher acuity, a lot of deaths, and my
Okay,
very
so what's the best shift, best place you've worked?
the best place that I've worked, I
Like
feel
a
like
unit.
Um, oh crap. I mean, ultimately, MedSurg Tele resonates with me well because a majority of our patients we get to see discharge in hopes of progression. So that's how I resonate well with it. What about
Yeah.
you?
I mean, I love Telly. I just think um I just think we work so hard. And not that everybody doesn't work hard. I'm just saying in MedSurg Telly, you don't even like know that hours have gone by. Like you just look up and it's oh my God, it's 3 in the morning, and you just
I agree. Because, like, when you're in, like, ICU, you're thinking about your hour or 15-minute charting because sometimes it's even 2 minute, depending on the acuity of the patient. And in the ED, it's kind of like a chaotic madhouse, but they also have hours of times that kind of trend up and trend down. And of course, that varies shift to shift. And I'm with you, Krystal. Everybody in the whole entire healthcare department, regardless of our role, the unit, whatever. I don't care if it comes down to the freaking housekeeping. We are all burnt out, we are all tired, and we all deserve the recognition that we do not get for being present in people in their most vulnerable times. And us trying to present full force, 110% of ourselves, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, and while lacking probably 70% of the resources that we need. And I mean, we've seen that firsthand. I mean, sadly, at some of the hospitals that we both worked at, we
yeah.
saw things that were not honestly acceptable care. We weren't even providing the basic level of care that needed to be done to these patients, and it
So
breaks your
yeah.
heart. And I think that's
So
kind of why we're here.
that one hospital that we worked at, we won't say names, but
No.
we worked together at a couple is couple, take it as you want. But we worked at a couple hospitals, and one of the hospitals, we worked a night shift, and it was like 2 in the morning, and they were like, "Oh, there's no housekeeper. You have to clean the bed." And I mean, me and Sam are travel nurses. Actually, I believe that maybe there was like one or two other, but the staff definitely outweighed us. Like, there, it wasn't like sometimes you go to a hospital and it's all travel nurses on the unit. This
Hmm.
particular unit in this particular hospital, I know Sam knows what I'm talking about, is like we were outnumbered. It was staff and then us. And so like every time there was like a budget meeting, it was like, oh, the travelers are taking our money and we can't afford this because of the travelers. And we were
Yes.
literally looking at them like, you make more than we do an hour. we're just getting a stipend, but we also have to pay for two homes. So like, don't educate us on who's getting paid more. But at this
Yes,
particular
ma'am.
hospital, at like 2 in the morning, they had people in the ER and they had no beds, and they also had no housekeeper because the housekeeper stopped working at like midnight, and they just didn't have one from midnight until 7:30 a.m.
Let me add
And
in
I
that
mean,
they only had two housekeepers on staff at this point. Just
at the
two.
whole, yeah, yeah, for the night shift, yeah. And
No,
so
no, no,
they,
like whole wide.
oh, for the whole hospital. Oh, I didn't
Yes,
even know that.
that was made in a team talk meeting that they
The
only had
plot,
two
the
full
plot
time.
thickens. So I didn't even know that. So the plot, so at 2 a.m., we get this, like, our chargers is like, hey, we need these rooms cleaned. And I know I was the first one. I was like, no, ma'am.
I thought it was
No,
a
ma'am.
joke.
Yeah, and so the chargers was like, well, you could just take those Decide wipes, the Sandy wipes, and wipe the room down. I said, okay, well, I mean, what if there's MRSA in the room? There's actually a special chemical. What if there's C. diff? There's actually a special light. Like, I'm not trained for these chemicals, not for nothing. As you said about everybody involved in the hospital, our housekeeping staff also has their own specialized job, and they
Yes.
have classes they take for those chemicals, where to mix them, where to put them, what not to put them on.
Mhm.
And at 2 a.m., I'm telling you right now, I'm not wiping that room out to side. And then the patient comes in with an open surgical wound and now has a MRSA infection. And now I'm in court 3 years from now because they
Yes.
lost their leg. Do you know?
Let me
And the
let me
charge,
add in before you kind of to create like the scene. So this particular unit that me and Krystal were on was a trauma unit. So we were mainly dealing with mainly orthopedic, but we did have our
orthoneurotrauma.
neuro. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we were dealing with a lot of surgical open things. So these needed to be truly clean rooms. And I'm not going to throw any shade, like, we're not trying to throw shade on ER nurses because they do that. They will turn their
of
beds
course.
over. But
Love our
ultimately,
ER nurses.
hopefully, patients aren't staying in there days at a time where we would typically have a patient for 2 to 3 days. And that
Right,
creates that higher infection risk, not when you're
right.
laying in a bed and hopefully going to be transported to a unit within 3 to 5 hours. So I
Absolutely.
wanted to
Yeah,
add that
so
little tidbit in there.
yeah. So when we kicked back, so I said that, and then I believe it was the handful of travel nurses that did work were like, yeah, you're right. We're not doing that. And then the staff was like, well, we have to. This is our job.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. Well,
Yep. They
go
accepted it
ahead and
and
clean the room.
yep,
We're not.
they were rolling with it.
We're not. And I know that you happened to stay at that hospital a little longer than I did, and I believe you told me that that kind of became a norm, like that. Now, then you were cleaning rooms, right? And how
It did.
ridiculous is this?
It did because what happened was, and I mean, in all honesty, when you think about having two housekeepers to a whole hospital that it had like 150 beds.
Yeah,
So when you think of that aspect, you have two housekeepers. At that point, they were not doing your daily room cleans, okay? These patients were making commentary on the little note cards about how unclean they felt the room was because no one came in and changed out their trash besides the nurses or the techs. No one came in and would do like wipe downs of things. And so what they did was take those comment cards and then put them on the bulletin board of where we needed to improve. So they weren't accepting responsibility for the fact that they, number one, couldn't hire housekeepers, and number two, keep housekeepers. So my thing is, we ended up being told to do hotspot cleaning, make sure your trash is taken out, which those are things that we most likely do already, but it just seemed a
for it
lot
to
more
be your
involved.
designated job is
Yes,
like a different story. Like, it's not for
yes,
nothing. Obviously, when you do wounds on a patient with multiple wounds, I mean, good nurses, usually will bag the trash, take it out, put a new bag in. You don't want that bloody stuff sticking around. But we're
no,
talking like these garbage cans at this particular facility were overflowing. In fact, the garbage room would go from floor to ceiling,
yep.
uh, and
And
over the weekend because there was nobody to take it out. And
no,
enough for nothing. Where's all this money going? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, if you
It's
don't
not
have all
going in
those
my pocket.
housekeepers that you're paying and you're now expecting staff members to not only clean the patient rooms, but now do the nurses station, take out the nurses station's trash. Like, it's not the fact that that bothers me. I can do that. I don't mind doing that occasionally, but ultimately my whole reason to be on that job is to take care of my patient. And that is
Right.
why there are housekeeper roles. Now, unless you have
Absolutely.
me at some crazy amazing ratio of 1 to 3, I don't have that availability time. I'm looking at so many other aspects. And this hospital that we worked at had a 6 a.m. med pass instead of 9 a.m. med pass. So I'd go in at 5 a.m. and shove 40 pills down your throat. So the fact that they
No
wanted to,
breakfast, no coffee. Take your multivitamin on an empty stomach.
oh my God, the worst day that I had there with that was when I was told to give a patient their aspirin, their baby aspirin, vitamin C, and there was something else like their
Magnesium.
levothyroxine. And I was just like, you can't mix all those together. Like you're gonna cause a gastric ulcer. Like what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Right. Well, so
And
by 9 a.m., they have abdominal pain because I've just given them vitamin
they
D, vitamin C, multivitamin. I've given
potassium.
them, their levothyroxine, that's fine. I've replaced their potassium because of their 4 a.m. labs. And I've also given them oral magnesium. By 9 a.m., they're in CAT scan for abdominal pain. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
And
I
they're
mean,
throwing
where's
up
our,
continuously.
yeah, where is the thought process in this? And then
Mhm.
God forbid you reschedule it to after breakfast and
Oh,
you're a night shift nurse. Well, I mean, I don't even know if we want to transition into that, but God forbid you're a night shift nurse and you transition something over onto the day shift. Well, why didn't you do that? And listen,
yeah.
I've worked both shifts. I've worked them
Yep.
both.
Yep.
My
Me too.
attitude has always been it's a 24-hour job.
Hmm. Yep.
Why you gotta be so rude?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I just roll with the punches because I feel like there's no sense. You've been here 12 hours. You're giving me a report. Either you had a bad day, or maybe let's just let the cat out of the bag and say maybe you're burnt out and you're tired and you're just doing the best that you can shift to shift. I'm not going to sit here and hound you and say, yeah, I'm going to need you to stay 30 minutes late to do this, this, and this. No, tell me what you know, and I have 12 hours to figure the rest of the shit out, and we'll make it happen. Like that's
I
ultimately
mean, yeah.
that
So
was
like
just also that's how like I try to go about it.
that brings me to so it's like my today practice. Like, let's talk about my day. Uh, Report. Okay, so this particular job I'm working now it's the second time I've been at this hospital, but it is, I'm in like the ER setting. So we all know how in-house feels about ER. We all know how ICU feels about ER. So I'm in this setting, and when I do call report to a floor, and the nurse is giving me a hard time, just like we said, like, oh, you're passing this thing off the next shift. The nurse is like, did you swab their nose for MRSA? No, ma'am. I have 40 people in the waiting room, and they yelled at me because this bed has been open for 45 minutes, so I don't have time to. Can you do that before it? No, I can't. And honestly, for the first time in a while, like, I feel bad for the ER nurses or for nurses coming on and there's work left to do. And we really should just be a little nicer to each other. Like, we are all just showing up and doing the best we can. And when I get asked, like, oh, did you do this? It makes me feel like I didn't. And I know I did, you know? So I think if we could just be a little nicer to each other, shift to shift, floor to floor, I mean, that could really go a long way.
Yeah.
It's charge nurse to regular nurse. I'm not cleaning that room. And just be
Hmm.
nice to me. Like, oh, you're going to lose your job. Oh, you're going to lose your contract. I mean, am I? Because it didn't, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think that ultimately we need to come together, and I don't know how that's ever going to play out because I literally was with the Mean Girls Club last night. So I've been on this
The
floor.
mean girls are so mean, right?
They, I haven't told you the story yet.
What side are you on? Are you on the good? Like, are you on? like you have to align with somebody.
Yeah.
Like
The,
I hope you're on the mean girl side.
me?
I mean, you don't want to be. What I'm saying is I hope you're invisible to the mean girls. Like I hope you were with the
Oh,
mean girls club, but like you're invisible to them
oh no, they
because when
they they had some expressions on their faces that really
wait a
just
minute, you were working with mean girls and they were mean to you?
100%.
Are you
100%.
fucking kidding me? Bitch, okay, let me adjust myself in this seat. What do you tell me? What do you mean?
Okay,
Talk to
so
me.
this is going to be a blind reaction. So I have not told Crystal this story behind the scenes, and this literally happened last night. Okay, so I'm on a PCU floor.
I will
We
fuck a bitch up, all right? I will take this cat. I will take. Yeah, go ahead. Tell
take
me
your
more about this.
earpods out.
Tell me more about the story. Tell me. All right, I'm ready now. Go ahead.
Oh my God.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
You're I can't quite remember where you told me you're from, but I always want to say Bronx, but that's not it. You're from New Jersey.
I'm from New Jersey. All right,
What?
we're just as tough as the Bronx. So go fuck yourself. Tell me what happened. And what's your name? Is it Candy?
I
Is it
love that part.
Teresa?
I
It's
love
always a
it.
Teresa. It's always a Teresa or a fucking Carmen or
Wait a
something
minute.
like
What
that.
was the
Anyway,
first name that you said?
Candy.
Oh, it's close. It rhymes. We'll leave it at that. We will leave it at that.
It's always one of those. Okay,
Okay.
tell me what happened. I
So
don't got no more earrings to take out.
I'm on a PCU unit. We have 5 patients. Ultimately,
Five on a PCO. Okay, but
okay.
we'll skip. Let's just get to the nitty gritty. We'll
Okay.
come back to that.
Okay, so there
Five
was
on a fucking
multiple
PCO. Okay.
run-ins that I there was multiple run-ins that I had with these 3 nurses that were sitting on. So, okay, let me just draw out the unit for you. It's almost like a hallway where like all the extra rooms are. So like your med room, your medication room or medication room, what do you call that? Nutrition room, soiled room, clean room, supply room. And then you come in and it's a circle. So the circles around the circle branches out to the rooms. And so they're typically 2 patients to each room. So
Okay.
we had,
Two patients in a room.
yeah, we had
Wait, aren't you?
32 patients.
Oh, well, okay. Go ahead.
So, and the way the nurses station is directly in the middle, like a T. Okay, so we have the charge nurse and the huck that sit at like the
And
top part of the T, facing
okay,
coming down the hall, and then the long part that's like this part, you have 3 nurses stationed little areas on each side. So me and another traveler are on one side, and then the 3 staff nurses are over here.
I know exactly what unit you're on. Now I know exactly where you're at. Okay, go ahead.
So on this
I can't believe
night,
that unit is still open. Go ahead.
it was
Go
closed
ahead.
down
Yeah.
and reopened.
Okay. I know
So
exact now. I know. Okay. Go ahead. I had to smoke a
so
cigarette.
just
This is too juicy. Go ahead. Tell me more.
So randomly throughout the evening, okay, let me just first say this. I was there the night before and it wasn't that bad. I was back the second night. I walk in and it's just like a complete dumpster fire. There's people moving. There's just a lot of little stuff going on in this
I know, but
very
that's
small
that
area.
unit. That's that
Yeah,
unit.
it
That is
was,
a
it was,
norm for that unit. 2 years ago when we were together, that was a norm for that unit.
yes.
So, okay, but were you with the same staff the night before?
A majority of the same staff, yes.
Okay.
We were
Okay.
short, well, we were down 1 aide. So we had 3 aides the first night. The second night we had the 2 aides. So they had 16 patients each, but we had the same amount of nurses. So I mean, like you walk in and like the call, like, cause you go and pick up your assignment sheet, the call light's right there. And I don't
Of course.
know. And again, I'm not throwing shade on anybody. I'm just trying to figure out in my mind because when I first started in the healthcare field completely, I was a HUC. I was a health unit coordinator or a receptionist. And we were in charge of answering the phones, answering the call lights, putting in the orders for the doctors who still wrote doctor orders and progress notes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Back in
I
the
look at the call
day, I
light.
used to write.
I look at the call light log, and one of the call lights has been going off for an hour and 1 minute. So they have been listening to ding, 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 ding for a freaking hour. Okay. So I'm like, alrighty, let's just breathe
Alarm
because,
fatigue.
yes, walking in, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, it's second night. We got this. We can do this. Well, the shift goes on. The techs are stretched thin. They're aggravated because of when they came on, everybody had to go to the bathroom. Everybody needed complete bed changes, like just all these things compiled on top of each other. Well, I noticed I was answering a majority of the call lights besides the techs. There was no other nurse that took the time to look around and evaluate the fact that our techs are stretched so thin, your vitals are late, so why don't you pick up a vital sign machine and go get your vitals? I got 3 of my patients' vitals before she came to my area to get mine, and she was so thankful because everybody's just running around at this moment with a chicken with their head cut off. And thank God I only needed to get updates, so I like busted it on out. Well, after I got everything kind of like just went and introduced myself to everybody, got those vitals, I went to sit back down, look over my order, see if there's anything new, and I just hear the alarms keep going off. And not only that, at this point, I'm now hearing IV pumps go off. And so I
Ah,
go,
oh,
so
bleh,
I'm
I
going and I'm
can't.
taking care of things because I'm like, okay, everybody's at this point busy, but I cannot handle that repetition. And that was another reason I couldn't stay in the ICU because I hate those noises. They just get in my head and I
Yeah.
can't concentrate. So at this point, I'm like looking around and I look at the tech and I'm like, and she's like, are we the only ones that hear the call lights? And I'm like, so I decided to step back and I look around and I was like, because at this point now 3 IV pumps are going off. The call light is going off yet again, and I'm like, man, is anybody else hearing all these call lights and things going off?
You said
Nobody
that?
said a word. Yes,
You said that?
yes.
Yes, bitch. Go
And
ahead. Tell me more.
nobody said a word. Everybody just kept looking down at their computer like they didn't hear me. So I stomped off and I went and took care of the things that I did. And then I went and hid in a room for like 3 freaking hours because I was like, I'm not going to be doing everybody else's work. And obviously, it's not
Right.
bothering them. So I had to get some stuff done for my patients. So I took that opportunity to do that. I came out of one of the rooms because the double room, I had 2 dressing changes, multiple IVs to give. So I was in there for 28 minutes. I came out and one of my call lights, because they don't have the phones where it goes to your phone first, it just
Right.
goes to
Right.
the
Right. Right.
desk. So I come out and one of my patients' call lights has been going off for 25 minutes. So I make this statement. It's nice to get help for my patients when I'm in the room with someone else. Thanks. Nothing. Dead silence. So after midnight, there was a patient under oh my gosh, what do you call it when they're there with a police officer? Anyways, parole officer, whatever. They were there and hit the patient's IV pump was beeping. So I had a flush in my pocket. I popped my flush. I go to open the door. The tech is coming out of the room and is like, oh, you have this patient? I said, no, but I'm going to check in on the machine. And the nurse is like, no, I have it. And she like pushes her chair away from the desk, stands up and just stomps over there after she does this number to look at her friends. I was like, okay, you please go do your job.
Yeah.
Please. So fast forward, I deal with little petty shit like that all night long. Like I don't know how to do my job. And I am witnessing a cute med student. I'm talking maybe fresh 22. Okay. Goes
Don't they
into
have
the
such
room.
different skin like when
Oh
they're
my,
22? They
yes.
have like different, they have like a different face. Even like women. I mean, they're just like so new.
Yes.
It's so
They have not,
beautiful.
they have not been glimmered with the skin
They
of
haven't smoked a cigarette in their life.
they have not received the trauma of what it is like being in the hospital year
Yeah,
after day of shift
yeah.
after shift. So this precious med student, as you can tell, is nervous, but front in the line, and they're going in to do a bedside IND, and he's gonna watch. So he's in there, and he came out to get additional supplies that the original provider did not grab. And then goes back in, and this particular IND was positive for culture, so gowned up. Well, they needed the bedside table, so they brought out the patient's breakfast tray, and the student has no idea where to put this stuff. So he's kind of going up to the top of the T to put it like in front of the charge nurse slash the huck. And he's like actively asking while he's kind of setting it up on the table. And like all their faces are like, ah, like no. And I'm like, here, let me show you where it goes. And he's still in his gown, okay,
Yeah.
like the
Ah,
ISO gown.
Jesus, poor kid.
I know exactly. So I show him where the soiled room is, and we put the tray away, and he walks back to the room. And I guess at that time, the provider then asks for something else. So, like, barely makes it in halfway through the door and walks back out. And I think he's just freaking nervous, okay? And one of the nurses doesn't speak to him directly, just like passes by him and makes the comment loud. Maybe you shouldn't rewear or keep wearing your ISO gown out in the hallways, and like makes a joke, and everybody's like looking at her while she's walking away, and they think it's all cute and giggly. And then you can just see, like, he stops in his track and starts taking it off, and he walks back and he's like, I'm sorry, it was my bad. I don't know what I'm thinking. And nobody addresses him. Like, I'm kind of like standing waiting to give report over here and realize what all has just went down. And he takes it off, sanitizes his hands, and then goes to the supply room. So I follow him into the supply room because I know he's probably looking around in this room that you're in, like, where the
Yeah.
heck is what I'm looking
It's
for?
where all the good stuff happens.
Yes. So he was looking for surgical gloves because the provider that went in there to do the IND failed to grab their
Didn't.
own surgical gloves. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a
Which
med
happens all
student.
the time.
Yes. Who's observing. Okay. So I walk in and I apologize. I'm so sorry. You have to be careful and watch out for the Mean Girl Club. I literally say that. And I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, I'm looking for the surgical gloves. And I show him and he's like, thank you so much. And like he just takes a moment to kind of breathe and decompress before going back out there to the show of where it felt like he was like pinpointed. And it just broke my heart because that is truly how nursing is. It is so catty, and you will randomly find people like me and you that I feel like are very approachable, understandable, relatable, nice, and make humor out of every aspect. And
You
I
have
would have
to.
never called him out like that. I would have like went up to him and said, "Hey, you really need to make sure when you come out of the ISO room that you take the gown off, dude." Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
If
know,
you listen, if you don't know, you don't know. And we
yeah,
have no idea what these med students go through. It's not like nursing school where they're like, oh my God, wash your hands for 20 seconds exactly. And they
yeah,
watch you wash your hands. I mean, I don't know if they do that in med school. Like, I don't
yeah.
know. Even with the ISO gowns, like, I can't tell you, I can't say that I've never left a room as a new CNA like that and haven't been talked to, or even like a glove on my hand. Like, it's happened to me. Like, I've never been embarrassed about it. But if somebody were to embarrass me, I tell you that really would turn me off of
Yeah.
like what I'm
Well,
doing. Like,
I'm just gonna
it would just,
I'm just gonna say this straight out. First of all, I probably wouldn't have even been wearing the damn ISO gown. Well, let me just tell you,
MRSA, no problem. VRE, no problem. Klebsiella, no problem. COVID, I just need a paper mask. Bed bugs, full gown and gloves and hoodie.
absolutely 100%. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie there.
I'll be
I
calling Central Supply like, where's my hat? I need a hat.
just go ahead and
Please
give me the
stop
whole
bed bugs.
hazmat suit. You know those things that we first wore when we found out about COVID. You know what? Better yet, I'll take a
A
trash bag.
paffer.
Take a trash bag.
You know what? I'm gonna take my shoes off and put my bare feet on. I'm better off. I just sanitize my feet when I come out.
Purple wipe me down. Purple wipe me down.
We were just talking about that the other day at work. We were talking at my current job. There's like a big uproar because apparently like management is cracking down on wearing the wrong color scrubs. Okay, and uh, so I won't say what color we wear, but let's just say we wear like navy, okay? It's supposed to be navy everything, even like your jacket, okay? So a big email went out to everybody like 2 weeks ago that if you're going to wear a jacket, jackets are usually the issue. It's not the scrubs, it's the jacket. But apparently that's what this email is all about. So it's everybody's jacket. It's not the proper color. So they sent out an email that it has to be the hospital colors, we'll say navy, and it has to be zip up and collared. And then that pissed everybody off. All right. Because a
Because
scrub
they're wearing
jacket,
hoodies.
yeah, but well, I mean, listen, if it's not everybody, but not for nothing. I'm old school. I prefer a scrub jacket. Like I prefer the nurse jacket with buttons with no collar. It's like very old lady-ish, you know. But I like it. I prefer it. And so apparently, according to policy, like I can't even wear that.
For
Like
that.
it has to be a collared zip up that the hospital sells, which let's not forget is $70 per hoodie. So I work 3 shifts. So now you're talking $210. You sent this email out 2 weeks ago. Your insurance covers nothing, so I'm paying for my medical bills, and now I gotta pay for a zip up hoodie. So they send this email out, and the last 2 weeks, I'm not gonna lie, every fucking nurse has showed up in a fucking pink blazer, a
I
black
love it.
blazer. One of them showed up in a like an anime hoodie.
I love it. I love it.
And no, and we keep talking like, has anybody gotten written up? They're like, no. We're like, well, is it? I mean, is it really that important? That I mean, I'm wearing these scrubs. I'm wearing these scrubs. Night shift. I don't know if anybody understands how cold it is at night, but it's like the hospital forgets that temperature control exists past 7 p.m. Okay,
Yep.
literally, it's it's like they're on California time and they think it's 95 degrees. And so thus it's 52 degrees on the unit at 3 a.m. Now you want me to stay awake? Like maybe they want to keep me awake. Like maybe
That
that's the point.
that
Be like
might be
this,
good.
you
Freezing to death. They want you running around. What do you mean? We can't sit down. We can't sit down. You should be running around and have no time to even breathe. Nonetheless, realize that it's cold.
I can't. I can't deal with it. I really can't.
That's
I,
funny though. I love that they are coming together to kind of boycott that whole thing because I'm right there. Now if you're going into like an ISO room with this anime jacket on, okay, I kind of get that. But like if you're sitting at the nurse's station and maybe you're just going in to like check on your patients at 3 a.m. and make sure you're seeing active chest rise and fall, sure. But yeah, I
who's
don't know
going
why.
into the isolation room with their jacket on to begin with? Nobody. We
That
all
that's what
know
I'm
those
saying. That's
gowns.
what I'm saying.
Those gowns also have no temperature control. They are from 0 to sweating in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's like we're in a
At
latex
least,
suit.
thank God, majority of the hospitals I worked at, they got rid of the plastic ones. Remember the plastic blue ones that were in like a
Yeah.
little pack? Mostly it's like yellow ones, like the yellow
Cloth.
breathable. Although you'd be in the middle of changing a wound with the plastic one, like you're the garbage bag. It's all stuck to you.
That
Can't
was
take it.
me. That was me last night with my two that I stayed in there for 25 minutes and we have the blue gowns.
Oh,
Like
you do
literally
have the blue gowns there. Those are
yeah,
the
I went to take my
worst.
glove off and there was just like a puddle of sweat like at my fingertips.
Those are the worst, man. Hospitals that use those, honestly, their mothers should just like fucking burn. Like whoever orders that, I hope you have the day you deserve. Like honestly, like those things are, it's like wearing a trash bag, and the patient's like, I'm freezing, and you're like, fuck you. You're sweating, like literally, it's stuck to your skin, you
Yes.
know.
As it's
And
98 degrees
of
in the
course you
room
didn't,
and
you didn't tie it properly, so the bottom's fluffing up, and the rest of it's stuck to your fucking chest and just flying. It's just all in your face because it's ridiculous. It's insane. It's
yeah.
absurd. And then,
Yeah,
of course,
I
the
need
garbage, you go to take it off, and the garbage is like on the floor overflowing. And you're like, well, I don't know where to put this, But I guess I'm housekeeping too. Again.
again, surprise there.
Ay, don't get me started.
So I guess
Don't get me
my whole
started.
point kind of into that ramble was that the mean girls still exist and this is a younger generation that I was dealing with. You can definitely and I hate to say this, but you can definitely tell for sure one of them was for the aesthetic of nursing. I mean,
What
we were
what
literally running around like
which part?
crazy.
Which
Huh.
which part?
The
Which part of nursing is aesthetic? Just wearing the scrubs and
the
having a cute
scrubs, the
stethoscope?
stethoscope, the Stanley cup, the shoes.
The figs with no pockets. So the scrub top is completely useless. Where are you putting your flushes?
They're not
Like
flushing anything. What do you mean? You
the
had to
ner
flush the line?
then the new nurse is like this. I've got a flush. Figs Figs has internal pockets. They have internal pockets. It's right next to
I've
my
never.
heart where I believe nursing belongs.
Oh my God. I've never had a pair of figs. Let me just say I'm old school and go infinity. And lately, me and Krystal both have been rocking the freaking Walmart scrubs, y'all, because they are on point. They feel great. They're affordable. And I have washed them so many times and they have not faded one bit. Walmart will not let you down.
Listen, people are like, oh, you're a travel nurse. Travel nurse, my ass. I make just as much as you do. I can't
Yeah.
afford no figs. Figs.
Yeah.
You
I
want to
can't
order?
afford any figs.
You want to order out? Not if I'm buying figs. It's one or the other. You're on a
Yeah.
budget too. What are you getting?
Yeah.
We make
I
a
don't.
lot of money. We made a lot of money for like 8 months, 3 years
Yeah.
ago, and nobody will let it down. You know what I mean?
No.
Like nobody will let. The minute a travel nurse shows, oh, you make all this money. We don't make that. We make what the staff makes plus what it costs us to commute back and forth to home and to have a second home. And honestly, it's not enough. It's not.
No, it's not. It
It's
with
not.
inflation, it has not
No
been
way. It's not
working out.
enough.
Mm-mm.
But I still continue to travel because I cannot deal with somebody telling me I'm wearing the wrong color scrubs. And that's
100%.
what you have to deal with as a staff nurse.
Yep.
Because when you
Between that,
travel, oh, you're wearing the wrong color scrubs? Great, tell my boss because I don't even know who he is. You know? I don't, when you find him, let me know because I was looking to request off for the next 4 days, but I might just call in, because I don't know who it is. But nobody cares
I'll
about us. And
also let
that's
them
the way
know
I
that I'm
want it.
not. Also let them know that I'm not fucking cleaning the room.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. Let me call my boss and tell him that you want me to clean the room. Oh, I couldn't get a hold of him because I have no idea who he is. And I'll tell you right now, it's not my job. All right.
Mm-mm.
And listen, I do. I go above and beyond
I
when
can
I'm a
vouch
nurse.
that. I can say that I have
Yes, I
witnessed
do.
Krystal.
The
We had
last
six
thing
patients
I want to,
sometimes
yes.
at our last
Anna,
facility. We would
P
have six
C
patients, but we were still helping each
PCU,
other out.
neurotrauma. And, the last thing I want to do is be sitting, doing nothing ever.
Yeah,
Like,
when the
it gives
patients
me
need us.
anxiety,
Hmm.
ever. I mean, even if I start looking at my Facebook or something, I'm like, nah, who needs help? Like, I hear a bell, I'm up.
Hmm.
Always been that way. I had really good nurse mentors who trained me while I was a CNA and then mothered me into nursing. And so I feel like I got the best of the best. And I'm a good communicator, I think. I do my best. So those cunts, bitches, are we not allowed to curse on this thing?
I'm cursing. Um,
Oh, all right. So the cunts that don't want to answer bells, every travel assignment I've been at, I mean, you're from Georgia, like, all right. I once heard a reference.
Oh
I'm from the Northeast.
before you go there, let me just say, since you are the northern mentality, I'm the southern mentality.
Yeah,
So we have a lot of things in common, and but at the same time, I think, especially with us having our CNA background, it definitely changes how we approach situations
yeah,
and talk to patients. But it's like Krystal has like a little bit more of a assertive demeanor, but she can pull it off with the humor, and I'm like that southern charm that's like, oh, come on, Miss
yeah,
Nancy. So just kind of give you an idea of
exactly.
how we nurse. So there you
So
go.
my first, so I mean, obviously I'm from the Northeast. I grew up in Jersey. My, all of my nursing career was in New York, Long Island, New York. Okay. 5 years of it was like further on the island, which is where like your typical suburbs would be. But the next 3 to 4 years was closer to the city, and that's not something I was ready for, you know. That's where, like, if you're not moving fast enough, you're too slow, and literally they will run you over, you know. 7 patients on a step down, they didn't give a fuck. Patients. And in New York, when I was in, it was like 2000 and I think maybe 15, is when like all of New York hospitals decided that report from the ER to the floors was no longer indicated, and NISNA, which is the New York Nurses Association, actually backed them up and said that report from the ER to the floors was actually delaying patient care because many floor nurses were dodging the ER calls, like trying to buy themselves time. Understandably so. We had 7 patients, you know, we get rid of one and now we're getting the seventh one back.
Yes,
So
wait.
not,
Let me add something to that comment because this is, and again, I've done ER, I've done ICU, I've dilly dabbled in PACU pre-op. I get it. I
yeah,
100% get it. But my thing is, there's a waiting room. And with med surg nurses, there's so much that is to be expected to be done when they get to the floor. A lot of times we hear, well, the ER nurse said that I could get that when I get to the floor. Well, your pain medicines don't come up right away. Like, it takes time for a pharmacy to verify them when they come to the unit or whatever. But what I kind of wanted to bounce in there and say is sometimes we're trying to buy a little bit of time because meanwhile you're trying to get this patient discharged because you are ready for the next one. I haven't even taken care of the 6 or 7 other patients that I currently have on the floor. I can't
yeah,
possibly handle a whole new one. So that's all I
I
wanted to
get it.
add.
Yeah, that's why you're trying to buy yourself time. You're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, it's 10 a.m. I still haven't given 9 a.m. meds to 3 patients, and they're trying to
Yeah.
give me a report. Like, you're trying to buy yourself. I get it. I completely get it. That's what goes back to, like, now I'm in the ER setting and they're asking me minuscule things like, did I do the MRSA swab? No, I didn't. Like, that's not a life-saving measurement. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to, you know what? Don't do it on your shift. I'm sure the next nurse doesn't care either. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? These are all things that the hospital could just charge more money for at the end of the day. This is just bullshit shit. This is not a troponin. This is not an EKG. This is not an
It's a
antibiotic.
nose nasal swab, which we know
Ugh.
everybody has MRSA in their
Yeah,
names.
the fact that this hospital I'm at right now is even swabbing for it. I tell them all the time. I'm like, you have any idea how archaic this is? Like, do you have any idea that I feel like I'm living in the Stone Age? You know, because they like outlawed it in New York like 15 years ago. In any event,
Okay,
you
sorry.
know, uh, I forgot even what the fuck I
You
was
were
talking
talking
about.
about your New York and how they made those laws.
Oh yeah,
And
so they made these laws so that you didn't have to. So I worked at a step down unit at the time when they like, you know, made this like the norm for nursing. And in New York, there are 0 union hospitals. There's one way far out on Long Island, and we all wish we could be them, but it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? We're all like, hey, we heard it's so great at North Shore, you know? But none of us have a, like, whatever. So you would be having your 6 patients, and like I said, you try to buy yourself time, and then they pass this law. And the next thing you know, you're trying to help a fluid overloaded patient, and they're wheeling up a motherfucker on a BiPAP, and they just sit them right in front of the nurse's station on the fucking BiPAP. And you're like, who's this? And they're like, oh, that's your new patient. No report, no nothing. You're trying to wake the guy up, not responding. Do you call a rapid response? Do you call a code? It was the worst thing to ever happen in New York nursing history. And I gotta be honest with you, I got out of New York right before COVID. I have no fucking idea how that must have been for them. You know what I'm saying? Because New York was like, we don't need to do this. Report from the ER to the floor is no longer necessary. And I just wonder, like, how did that work out? The guys, you know, I'm
during
just saying,
COVID,
yeah. And so when I left New York, I went to North Carolina because here I am. You're a Southern girl. You get it. I'm like, you know what? I belong in the woods. I belong by a lake. I belong relaxing on a river. So I moved to North Carolina with me and my soon to be husband. And we're in North Carolina. And my first job I applied for it, they were like, oh, we're going to pay you $24 an hour. I I said, no, no, ma'am, I'm an RN. She says, I know. And said, I said $24. I'm a nurse for 8 years. She says, "Oh, you're right. I misdid the calculations. It's going to be 25.83." And I was like, "No." She was like, "What?" Like I was there, like I was in HR, like getting credentialed. I'm like, I don't want the job." She's like, "What do you mean?" And I got up and I left. And I went home and I told my fiance, I was like, "Well, I can't work here." Like in New York, I was making $68 an hour. He was like, "Yeah, but the price of living is different down here." I said, "It's not. We're living in a one-bedroom apartment that's $1,800 outside of Charlotte. What's fucking different than New York? It's the same amount of money. $1,800 a month, $24 an hour." I'm not good at math. I'm not good at math. I'm not going to claim to be, but I'm pretty sure I'm still short like $200. Like, so that's when I
The
started.
math is not
Is
mathing.
not mathing. So that's when I started exploring travel nursing. And, I just called this like random company. It was RN Network, actually. I have a heart for them. Maybe in a later episode, we'll tell you how they broke it. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, we can get you this job, like, 62 miles down the road," because it had to be 50 miles, and they'll pay you $52 an hour. I'm like, now you're talking my language, you know? And then, then I started working that job. And as I'm working, this is my first experience down south, and I kept getting a lot of complaints about my aggressiveness. Like my boss would bring me in, she's like, "I got a lot of complaints that the patients feel like you're yelling at them." And I mean, Sam, you know me. You know what I mean? Like, you know me. I was like, I don't know. Well, now I know they say "ma'am" when they want something like repeated. So I was like, "Ma'am." She was like,
Ma'am.
"It's like," she's like, "It's
Ma'am.
like this. It's like this, honey. Down here, we talk in a circle. Okay, everything's nice, like a fluffy biscuit. All right. Where you come from, it's like a square. You got edges, and you just getting to the point. All right. So I'm gonna need you to stop doing that." Said, "All right. Let me ask you something. When I asked a nursing assistant to take the patient to the bathroom and they didn't, and the patient rings again, and I go to the nursing assistant and I say, 'Did you not hear me when I said they had to go to the bathroom?' How do I round that up into a biscuit? How, just do me a favor, help me out. Like,
Me?
how do you, I mean, you're the round one here." So that's what happened. And that's what I would get in trouble for is I would go in there and say, "Did you not hear that I asked you to take her to the bathroom?" She's ringing again. And that's what she's talking about. So how do I round that up? I'm going to tell you, I have learned to, but if
So
you were new to it,
So I still have like identity crisis when it comes to navigating through trying to be the whole person. So with my CNA background, honestly, I would probably get up and do it. But if I'm busy, let's say I have other priorities and that I'm not just, diddly
you're
daddling and
busy.
charting all
You
this
got
extra
other
bullshit shit.
priorities. Yeah,
Okay.
not for nothing. New York was no better than North Carolina was no better than New York. We still had 6 patients on an IPU, which is an internal pulmonary unit, which most of them were vents. Okay, let's just,
Right.
you know,
So I had other stuff going on. I would walk up to the tech and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I have these things to do. I really need you to take this patient to the bathroom. They have now called twice. I do not have a moment to do so. I would truly appreciate if you could help me out in this manner," and walk away. I wouldn't give them the opportunity to tell me no. I mean, if I had
I
other
mean, what?
priorities.
I don't think there was a part of me that gave me the opportunity to tell them no. It's just I wasn't round enough. Like I wasn't. It was.
You're
It
too
was literally
direct.
like,
You have to
"Oh
be
yeah."
you have to be sweet. You have to be Southern sweet hospitality, and everybody kind of, I don't want to say expects it, but everybody wants you and encourages you to, I don't want to say be kind, but ultimately when I went to New York, what I was told by someone who lived in New York, or actually Hoboken, New Jersey, and they just worked in New York. They said, when we get over to New York and we are walking around Manhattan, you need to understand that New Yorkers, they have a mission and they're 10 minutes late for that mission, so get the fuck out of their way. And I was like,
Yes,
you got
that's
it.
my point. My
You got
point
it.
is I
Meanwhile,
need what I need. I'm not being rude. I need what I need because I have shit to do and I don't have time to explain it to you. Like
and
I don't I asked you twice. I need you to take her to the bathroom and they're like, "Oh, you're talking too sharp. Oh, you're
yeah,
being
yeah.
rude."
It's
That's
hard
rude.
because coming from Georgia, I would think that that's rude. But now, since I've been other places, for those people who sadly haven't experienced different cultures, different areas, they don't understand the hustle and bustle of the city life. Whereas we are literally in the middle of, typically towns are smaller unless you're in Atlanta, and still even then, it's not craziness. But you ask anybody in Georgia where they hate to travel, they're going to say Atlanta and McDonough, hands down. And that's because everything is moving fast pace. If you were to put them in New York City, they would just, their minds would explode. They would not know what the hell to do. They would get in the bus lane and be like, why are they rear ending me? Because you're in
Listen,
the bus lane. That is why they're
I
rear
get it.
ending you.
I grew up in New Jersey and I went to New York when I was 20. And like the first time I went to a gas station, bitch. I go to the gas station. Well, I don't know if you know this. You might not. But in New Jersey, it's illegal to pump your own gas. Okay? So when you
I
pull
did
up
not
to a
know that.
gas pump, there is an attendant. Like it to this day, it's still illegal to pump your own gas. There's an attendant and he pumps it and that's it. You don't tip them or nothing. It's like they get paid like buco bucks to pump gas. So I get to New York and I pull up to the thing. I'm like, I'm 20 years old. I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? And I go inside. I'm like, hello, you know. And he's like, oh, you pump your own gas. Just pay at pump. I said, pump? I don't pump my own gas. I don't even know how to do that. He says, pull forward. We pump it for you. So there's a full pump. So there's a pay at the pump and a full pump. So I pull forward. The guy pumps my gas and he holds his hand out. I was like, "What do you want?" He's
He
like, "You're
wanted the
not tip.
tip, man.
You're not tip." I'm like, "Tip you for what? Tip you for what? It's illegal for me to pump gas. What do you want me to tip you for?" I never went to
Oh,
a I never went to a full pay pump again. I just pumped it myself. He
I
went and
love that. I
you
could
gotta
only
give him
imagine
two.
how you felt.
I was so confused. And not for nothing, I'll tell you right now, I was not talking in a circle. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Pay you. I just
What
paid you.
you got to give them the favorite saying that you say to me, and you got to say it with your whole heart. Hit me with it.
Which one? You did
The
good, kid? Which one?
no, so like Willis,
Oh, what you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Willis?
and then the other one
Man,
where you say the F word.
sometimes you fuck you talking. What the fuck you mean? I say the F word a lot, so I don't know.
Uh, you have to experience this in Crystal's real life situation because like if you really catch her off guard and she turns and looks at you, she has that assertiveness. It comes out of nowhere. She brings New York soul to wherever you are, and you feel like you have just been called out by someone who has lived a majority of their life in
Oh,
New
I
York.
know what it is. I know what it is. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yes.
Are you
Oh,
fucking kidding me? I
I
had a
love it. I
nurse
love
assistant
it.
come
I
out to
would
me and they're like, "Oh, I forgot to take their temperature while I was in there." I'm like, "You fucking kidding me? It's your only job. It's your one job, and you fucking were in there and you forgot
And
to do it."
people don't understand Crystal's humor, so sometimes they would be caught off guard until she starts busting out laughing like that, and then they're like, "Oh, I can laugh too." And it's like, "Yes,
I,
please laugh."
you know, now that you mentioned that, I could see how I talk as square. I can see that. I can see how that might come off like square.
Meanwhile, what she also meant to say was that you talk in a square that goes fast, like a very direct fast square, whereas the Southern people are nice and slow, and we have our drawl, and when we try to get a point across, it takes 10 times as long.
Yeah, no, it's
Or my favorite Southern saying as a nurse was when I was working at a small hospital in Warner Robins, Georgia, and I was actually in the ambulatory surgical center, and I overheard this lady in PACU um, literally ask the patient as they were waking up, would you like some water? Or better yet, would you like some Lorna Doones? I fucking died. I died. I died and went to heaven, and that's been my favorite mwah, Southern saying since then.
I didn't even know what a Lorna Doone was till I got to North Carolina. And when I tell you, I ate all of them. Like they had like a kitchen, for the patients, of course. But during COVID, none of them could eat. None of them could eat. So, but yeah, Lorna
Oh my
Doones was
God.
delicious.
I freaking love it. Well, I think we have had a great first podcast. We kind of laid the barrier
Yay!
of who we are and what we're wanting to share. What I want to do is we've kind of covered a lot of things and multiple different things, but if there's something that personally stuck out to you, comment it down below. That way, in our future upcoming podcasts, we can either answer back to any questions that you have or kind of go further into detail about certain aspects. And it doesn't matter if you're a healthcare worker, if you're a patient and you're seeing this, we're open to all aspects, and we just want to make light of the situation that's at hand. And ultimately, healthcare is in a crisis state. And we
Yes.
are trying to be the front facing, positive people. We go to work, we do our best, but we also need to let out our frustration somewhere in a safe environment, and that's what this is. And we're going to be having people come on the show and kind of interviewing them and giving other people the chance to talk. So if you're also interested in that, please drop a comment below. Otherwise, I think we're wrapping up on our first ever podcast. I'm so excited.
Please do not submit an incident report because I'm not signing it. I'm not doing it. I'm a
Nope.
travel nurse. I'm not signing that. I'm not
As I
signing that.
tell my patients,
Call
as I
my
tell,
boss.
and let me know who it is. As I tell my patients, you better not fall because you will be filling out the paperwork. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing
Here's
it.
a pen.
It's too much. It's too
Un-
much paperwork. So,
Until next time, guys.
yes, I hope you enjoyed. I love you so much, Krystal, and I'm
I
so
love
ready
you
for the
too,
next
Sam.
episode. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Bye, baby. Mwah.